So how should we paginate through recipes? We wanna first do something like this: div class and then row, and then I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it a span. So call MD4, then call MD offset 4, so it's in the middle, and a class of center, and then heading, and I want it to be in italics, say recipes. Okay, and then here I want to show the pagination, so will paginate. Now we want to paginate recipes, right? So we want to do something like this. But we don't have a recipes instance variable here. We have chef instance variable. We don't have a recipes instance variable. So let's go ahead and take care of that real quick. So in our chef's controller, where you have the chef's instance variable being created, you wanna add like a recipes instance variable here that we want to pass through. So let's go ahead and create that. Recipes. Now we have chef, right? So chef dot recipes dot paginate. Now if you remember, I'm going to take a look at the recipes controller real quick. If you remember the index here, the show pagination, you just have the class and then paginate through, the model, and then paginate through, and then pick up as many of the rows as you specify here, right, per page. So we're going to follow a very similar model here. So chef recipes paginate, and then page paginate, page params page, and then per page I want to pick up, let's say 3. Okay. All right, so now we have a recipes instance variable. So let's go ahead, actually let's go back to our view, the show chef page. Okay, so now we have a recipes instance variable. So we don't need to refer to the recipes as chef.recipes, right? So, and we're paginating through recipes instance variable. So let's go ahead and update this. So we can just say something like this: recipes.each do recipe, right? And I think everything else should be fine. I don't think we need to change anything else. Okay, we have recipes, we have chef. Okay, so let's see how that looks. I'm going to reload this page. Okay, perfect. So we have 3 recipes showing up, which is exactly what we wanted. We wanted the pagination here, which is showing up in the middle, which is what we wanted also. Perfect. All right. So now we have a show chef action that's completed, right? And we have a listing of the recipes. So this is good. So now let's think about what to do next. So now I would want to build a listing of the chefs, right? So we have an ability to go to an individual chef's page and see the recipes they've created, and then when we click on a recipe, it takes me to that recipe. But notice how I can't go back to the chef's page, right? So let's take care of that real quick. I want to be able to click on this image, a gravatar of the chef, and that should take me back to the show chef page, right? How do we do that? So this is the show recipe template or show recipe HTML ERB file. So let's go ahead and update that file. So under recipes, go to show HTML ERB. So here we have the Gravatar 4 recipe chef, right? And I'll take a look at the route real quick, and you see that the show chef page is chef_path. That's the path for the show chef page. So I want to link to that page here. So I'm going to type in link to Gravatar 4. Now here, I want to give it a bracket, open bracket, since that's the first argument, which is the link. And then I want it to go to the chef path, but here I have to provide the chef whose path I want it to go to. So chef. Okay, so let's see what that did. I'm going to reload this page. Okay, we seem to have an error here. It says action show controller chefs missing required keys ID. ID is nil. So let's see what happened. So we have recipe.chef. We don't have a chef instance variable here, right? To get to the chef, since this is the recipe show page, if you go to the recipes controller show action, you see that we are just grabbing a recipe. So in order to refer or pass in the chef object, we need to do something like this. We need to, instead of chef, we need to do recipe.chef, right? So that will grab the chef associated with the recipe. So let's try that again. Okay, now if I hover over this picture, see how it's a link. If I click on it, there you go, it's going to the show page for the chef. Okay, perfect. Now I can go back to the recipe. There it is. All right, so at this point, I want to create a listing of my chefs. You know, so just like we have the recipes listing, when we go to this is like the index page for the recipes, right? So I want to have an index page for the chefs. So let's go ahead and build that. So we'll go to our, first let's look at a path. The path for the index action is just chefs. Okay, so it'll be chefs_path. And it's a get request to /chefs. All right, so let's go to our chefs controller. And straight off the bat, we know we're gonna use pagination for this, right? So let's look at the recipes controller. We're going to, our chefs controller index action will have very similar code to this. Okay, so let's do that. Define index and then end. So I want to grab chef's instance variable and then chef.paginate and then page params open bracket colon page, and then I want to say per page. We'll just stick with our default. We've been showing 3 for everything, so 3 chefs per page. All right, so let's see what that did. I'm going to go ahead and type in chefs. Okay, it says chefs, chef pay. Okay, so that's, I need a template. Okay, I need a template. I want it, and I need to display this. So under chefs, notice how I don't have an index.html.erb file. So let me go ahead and create that. New file, index.html.erb. Now this is going to be similar to the index HTML ERB file of the recipes, right? The show recipes, because again, that has a recipe listing. It paginates through that. So we're gonna follow a very similar path. First, I'm gonna grab this title. So let's go back to our index file that we just created. Okay. So we want the page title. Now we want the page title to say all chefs instead of all recipes. Okay. Then we want to paginate through. So div class, we'll give it a row. Then div class, call, we're going to give it a span of 4, which is the standard we've been following. And then call md offset 4, so it displays in the middle and then center. And then we want the pagination link, so we'll paginate. Here, I don't have to provide the @chefs because that's being provided automatically. Okay, in the show action, I had provided @recipes because I had 2 instance variables to work with. I had @chefs and I had @recipes. So I basically said to paginate @recipes. So here, since I only have @chef or chefs, I don't have to specify what it is. It automatically, by default, assumes that it's going to paginate the instance variable that I have, which is chefs, sorry. Okay, and then we want to do something like this, chef dot each, do chef. I want to iterate through all of the chefs and then display them. So, and the formatting is going to be very similar to this because I want it to display in the middle. So I'm just going to copy this over. Okay, so div class row there. I'm not paginating this one because this is up on top already. And then, all right, so here I want to grab the gravatar, right? So, but I want it to be a link because in the listings page, if I want a user, if the user clicks on any gravatar image of the chef, I want that to go to the show chefs page for that chef. So I'm going to provide a link to, then gravatar for chef, and then size 200. And I want it to go to the chef path. And the object I have is chef, so I'll give that. Okay. And I also want to display the chef name. So I'll give it a p tag and then h5 chef name and then chef name. All right, let's see what that did. Let me reload this page. Okay, we seem to have an exception here. Okay, so let me check out my index action again. Chef.paginate. Oh, whoops. We have a syntax error over here. Per page, not per age. Okay, so let's try that again. Okay, perfect. So we have our chefs being listed. We currently have 4 chefs in our application. or 5. So let me go ahead and click on the chef and see what happens if it's linking correctly. All right, so now we have the show chef page. Okay, perfect. So we see that we have our show action and the index action listing all the chefs working correctly. But notice how for the new and edit actions we're entering in the URLs currently to get to those pages. We don't want to do that. We want to add those routes to our user's interface. So I want you to think about how to use the routes that we have for chefs and implement them across the site template so far. So this should be very helpful. So the paths we're interested in are edit chef, then the new chef, which is right here, which is the register link, and then the chef show page. So we'll do that in the next lesson, and I'll see you there.